just over 7 years ago, I found out who my father was through 23andMe. Being 39 years old at the time, it was quite a shock to be able to figure out the mystery of who my father was. And come to find out that he lived in the same borough that I was living in. In that time of getting to know him, it made me unravel a lot of my own identity that I established to make it to nearly 40 without the support of my birth father or family. When I came to his apartment a couple of years ago, in 2000, at the end of 2022, I was mortified. I was shocked at the condition of how he was living. He was a recent widow, and his wife died unexpectedly of cancer, and he was left alone and unable to take care of himself. And when I came here, no personality in the apartment. It was just a box with roaches and everything, and it was a mess. And I couldn't even fall asleep in that apartment. I had to spend the night there to head upstate, and it was disturbing. And I kind of made a promise to myself and to my, in appreciation of being able to even know who this man is, this man who was never there for me when I needed help in certain moments. There I am. And instead of just going off and leaving him, I decided to stay and try to put some color into his space. I've come to find out that he has stages of Parkinson's and dementia. And I wondered if a repetitive routine of going to Dunkin' Donuts and getting a sandwich and going to get a coffee every day and watching Everybody Loves Raymond in loop would make somebody's mind diminish. So I've done an experiment here to see if color and energy in your living space makes a difference. Does it spark something up in the mind to keep it moving rather than it stagnate into the lull of Seinfeld reruns and Andy Griffith Show and Dunkin' Donuts and sugar-free cookies? Yeah, and in the everything in his apartment, I started with a big painting, and then I felt like the state of the apartment, it didn't matter if I painted the walls. It needed a paint job in the case of him moving out. And I said, well, I'm just going to paint. And you're looking, every mark in here, they were done at different moments, different times over the course of just over 2 years of painting. And really, it's just recordings of time I've spent with my father and taking care of him and working through a lot of my daddy issues. And like a kid would write on the walls of their bedroom in their parents' house, I've wrote on my father's walls while we watched Weekend at Bernie's or Castaway or some Citizen Kane or whatever, I paint his walls. And I created this experience. It's kind of like it's like a portal. I imagine it to be a portal, and it's all intuitive, and everything is a response to what's there before. And sometimes I just get some red and put it on a brush and walk around the whole apartment and just freely add red to whatever feels right. And I'm doing all this while watching TV with my dad or taking care of him, goofing around with him or something like that. And I've been very appreciative of this time with him, and I felt it important, I think it's important to work out whatever differences you have with people while they're alive. I'm not going to hang on to some resentments of someone not being there or being in a position where I know how to take care of myself. or manage my affairs because I, had to survive, and I feel that this is an asset. It's not something that hindered me, and perhaps I can be a father to my father and be a buddy to my father, and all of this is a reflection of that good time, and it's very much a portrait of my father because all of the energy that I was picking up in this apartment, in this space, he had a big part. I could feel I was tuning into him, and this is sort of a visual portrayal of energy, of a particular temperature of that energy.
Sure. And I think like a big part of that energy is, and the point of like all this is like the idea of, forgiveness and taking the high road of, because you can easily, there's many reasons for you to just kind of ignore the situation that you've been in and be sour about something and just keep on, like you said, this resentment towards somebody, but you're choosing the positive way.
Yeah,
And you're choosing the high road.
yeah, you got to work it out. You got to work it out while they're alive, and the idea of taking the high road, it sounds noble and groovy and stuff, but you're talking about going over the mountain. You're talking about going uphill, and that could be difficult, and that could be a pain in the ass. And sometimes you got to pause, or sometimes you want to give up. There's been plenty of great moments with my father, but there's also been moments with my father where I was like, "Motherfucker, what'd you do for me?"
Right.
Or feeling like I'm going out of my way to tend to him at a time where he needs, and then feel some situations where I'm not being appreciated, and it kicks up a lot of this underlying resentment that I've carried since I was a child, or a teenager or a young adult, seeking an understanding of who I am. And that's the trouble with it, is I don't think we ever completely come to that conclusion. It's just a journey of discovering who we are. And for some of us, we haven't even been able to plot a point on that map. And there's a lot of people that are always moving, or even when you think you know yourself, at 39 years old, my sense of self and my identity was pushed forward. I felt the need to be accomplished at whatever I was passionate about, and I made it a mission to get to that point. And a lot of my identity was rooted, but also dispositions and all that, and meeting my father and letting go of a lot of feelings of abandonment, or feelings of issues with self-worth, all that kind of stuff that comes with the absence of something, whether it be something you conjure up in yourself, or something that is based off of your reality. I find myself in spending time with my father going through a lot of that, and I feel a lot of it is ancestral. I'm learning a lot of it is sort of, it's like the torch being passed from generation to generation. I'm picking up hints of his parents. I'm picking up hints of their parents, and these generational dispositions, or issues with self-identity and love. Issues with love. That's what I've been really experiencing here, is a deep dive into that, for myself, for where I come from, and then how that affects me in this space called now, or whatever it is that we want to call now.
Sure, yeah.
We could call it
Yeah.
whatever we want. Fill in the blank. It is this.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of like, what I think is a lot of the time beneficial for people and kind of breaking cycles of bad habits or trauma or whatever you want to call it is kind of doing exactly that and looking back and trying to end a cycle of things that have happened generations before to prevent them from happening again. You know what I mean? And that takes a lot of introspection and being real with yourself and kind of a deep dive into things that have happened to all of us and how we want to see the world going forward and what we want to, not also not see the world going forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's as you were saying, kind of a part of what you were doing in like understanding, your father and their parents and so on and so forth.
Our ancestors have a way of helping to set that dial to a particular radio station. When we're all born with a slightly different trajectory. For some people, they're into astrology and all that kind of stuff and everything like that. I don't think it's just the stars. It's everything all working down to being introduced into this moment. And I feel that the family line has a way of sort of dialing you in, physical appearance, but also your energy calibration is sort of influenced in. And to do that work, to take that time and to work out whatever stuff it is with identity, you begin to unravel some of that stuff. So they, in these spirit communities and all that, they talk about, like shadow work, or doing some sort of a healing that's connected with yourself and where you come from. And some of that is ancestral. There's ancestral trauma. If there was something tremendously devastating that happened to your family 2-3 generations ago, war, or the things that come from war, that some of that trauma survives. It goes to the next generation, like a plant. If I overwatered this particular plant and it ended up getting sick and have mites on it and all that, and I healed it and it went to seed, perhaps those seeds are affected by the lifespan of the plant that it came from. So that's what I'm kind of exploring in this experience with doing my ancestral work. Is just trying to understand that, and then to find peace and healing and to do things. I think that to actually do things as gestures of respect, centered around that, I feel that it can be helpful, and this is my version of that. Yeah.
Definitely.
And I had a great time getting to know my father. Like in get to know him and my family. I've come to realize that there's parts of them that exist in me. And although I grew up without them,
Right.
there it is. And we're getting this wonderful opportunity to spend time together. I've been on the road with the Roadmap Tour since 2022. The time that I wasn't traveling around the country, sometimes I'd be gone for a year and 8 months, sometimes a year, sometimes 6 months. When I would return, I'd return in the winter and end up hanging out with my dad. And when it's cold out and you live near the beach in Brooklyn and there's not a whole lot to do, you end up finding ways to entertain yourself, and this is it.
Well said. How often, as a grown man, do you get to make new best friends? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's rare.
Yeah. I think that it all begins with respect, and sometimes if we can't forgive somebody, it's hard to respect them. So if we could at least begin there at some sort of level platform of respect, and then being able to keep it. Sometimes it's like getting on a seesaw. Especially with wild people. My father can be up and down emotionally sometimes, and it's like trying to keep your composure when things go a bit unstable. And that's tricky, and it kicks up a lot. And as much as you want to be a good person in life, we all aim to be good on some level. Sometimes we're not good, or sometimes we're like, you know what, fuck this shit. I'm out. I'm just going to do me. It's okay to feel that way. I'm not battling it. I'm experiencing it. And yeah, sometimes it's awesome. Sometimes it sucks. But I guess that's what life is about, right? Like, for people who watch TV like my father, quite a lot of the movies, I'd say the best movies deal with some intense level of struggle or loss, or something out of the norm happens. A movie about just some stable situation that just doesn't really go anywhere would be boring. Most of the movie advertisements you see on the subway, it's always like Liam Neeson holding a gun, Robert De Niro holding a gun. They're up to something, and they gotta go against the grain with that gun. Most movies are about struggle and about going through the emotions of a lot of that. And perhaps our real lives can be that too, and we can find joy in that. We could appreciate the entertainment of suffering, and maybe put a smile on our faces, about it.
Absolutely. I think that all the time. Like, if things are going good or bad or whatever, I always say, like, at least life isn't just decent. You know what I mean? Like, at least
Yeah.
there's something to, you know, be entertained by, or grateful for, or like upset about. As long as things aren't, too just neutral. Nothing is, peaking or going too low. Then, it's probably a good thing. There's probably, people who just remain at a constant all the time. There's nothing to like look forward to or look back on. You know what I mean?
For some people, it's tremendously safe. Like with my father, I created this. This is my way of trying to understand: does color in an environment impact the mind in a positive way? Because there was nothing on this wall. There was this painting I gave him, crookedly hanging above this couch, and nothing else. And like, lamps that my aunt gave him, and his bed wasn't made, and there was just tissue papers everywhere, and it was a mess. With there's no character to this place. Things were all just shantily thrown around, and I wondered if that helped with his decline. So by adding color, and also experiences in life, I dragged him to all sorts of things. I've taken him to hang out with me and the boys to get up to fun, just to get him out of the house. And I let him know. I said, it really doesn't matter if Everybody Loves Raymond is on TV right now. Let's go live our lives. Let's go do something. Yeah. I find that maybe too much of that it can affect his memory. I think that he enjoys his routines, even if I think those routines are boring. Like right now, he's out at Dunkin' Donuts. He sits there. He knows where it is. He can walk there on his own without my help. He has his sugar-free cookies. He has his coffee. He has 2 cups of coffee a day, once in the morning and once at night. and that makes him feel good. And I think he wants to feel useful. He wants to feel independent. He wants to know what channel something in particular is on, because he's losing that. So as much as I've dragged him out to go do this thing and that thing and put him on roller coasters and bring him to parties and bring him to graffiti and all that kind of stuff, as much as I've given him that, he still needs his sense of security, and I'm learning to respect that about him. That it's okay that he's rewatching every episode of every season of Everybody Loves Raymond. It's okay. He probably forgot what was going to happen anyway. You know, yeah.
Totally. I think different strokes for different folks, and I think some people require a little more settling and being stationary than others. And I think the brain's kind of a muscle, and if you don't give it new stimuli every now and then you may start to lose whatever functionality of it over time, whether you know it or not. And it's always healthy just to get out and do new things and experience new forms of the world in any way they come. And I think color definitely plays a part in that. The monotony of just a black and gray world is definitely plays with that idea of not having new stimuli or not being in color. I think is, I don't know if there's any science or anything to it, but I'm sure people in cities and towns with murals on the wall and colorful buildings live a much more joyous life.
Yeah.
Or see the world in a much more positive manner than I don't know, here in like Manhattan, everything's metal and glass, you know what I mean? And there's very little, things to break up what you see with your eyes a lot. And a lot of people in New York are fucking miserable, I think, because of part of that,
Well, it's New York City is a highly concentrated mixture of everything, all pressed into confined spaces.
Sure.
And what some people consider beautiful, like walking around Brooklyn and like underneath the J train in Williamsburg, some people are like, wow, it's so beautiful, but it's also really gritty and grungy looking, and things are rusted or falling apart or whatever. I mean, and then you can't park, and everybody's like kind of aggressive, and you got to be fast paced. That's exciting, but it's there's other versions that you can explore that maybe are just a bit more peaceful.
Sure.
But then again, you can find peaceful little nooks in New York City.
Definitely.
My father seems to be a diehard New York City man. He wasn't born in this country; he was born in Italy, but he's very comfortable in this particular neighborhood of Brooklyn. It feels safe to him, and yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's a little boring for me, though. Yeah.
What neighborhood did you grow up
I
in?
I'm born in Brooklyn, and I came into memory and all that kind of stuff. I grew up on Staten Island, and I lived in an area called Midland Beach. But I lived all over Staten Island, and in my teens I moved to, I went to high school in Manhattan a bit. So as a teen, 14, 15 years old, going around Manhattan was a great influence on me, like independently,
Totally.
Getting on trains and going places. Like I learned a lot.
Imagine that was fun.
I mean, sometimes it was a little scary, to be 14 years old,
True.
taking the train to go to school. And, like and at that time in the '90s, dealing with like kids scheming, like people trying to rob you on the trains and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And to be a little teenage kid and learning street smarts in that way, I appreciated it. I lived in Jersey, lived in L.A., Sacramento, New York, Paris, and now I live everywhere.
Yeah. No.
But
Non-stop.
I'm looking to live. I'm looking to live somewhere now. I'm coming on up to 3 years of traveling, and I'm just feeling a desire to belong to a particular place.
Sure. Probably gets a little tiring.
Yeah, but I feel like I've been on my walkabout. Like Crocodile Dundee went on a walkabout. I've gone on mine, and I hit the road and did zigzags around America a few times. Been to places that I would have never went had I flown there, or
Yeah.
I've stayed in places that I wouldn't be able to stay if I wasn't in a motorhome.
Totally.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
had a
that's
good
the
time.
thing. Some places are just not possible to just happen by unless you get there via kind of unconventional
Yeah,
modes of transportation. You know,
yeah,
like I knew this one guy who would just like hop trains, like the freight trains, and he's like, yeah, the coolest part is just seeing places literally you just can't get to otherwise unless you're riding on a freight train. You know,
yeah,
because it's uninhabited.
yeah. I've seen some of those views where they're not near even roads.
No, yeah, just in the middle of, forests or huge wooded lands or like swamps or mountains or something.
Yeah,
Just going in between mountains and stuff. It's really cool. And probably same goes for like just trying to get lost in an
yeah. Well, we get lost to go find ourselves,
RV. Yeah,
to eventually find ourselves, hopefully find ourselves. We get lost to hopefully find ourselves.
sure,
We get lost to hopefully find ourselves.
absolutely. Where's do you have an idea of kind of maybe where you want to settle down?
I'm on my path to discovering that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna head south and go look at some places and see what I can say yes to, and take it from there. Yeah, I think it'll be south of here, maybe a little bit less harsh temperature wise,
yeah, somewhere in between.
somewhere in between.
Absolutely
Yeah,
hot as hell everywhere.
yeah, and then maybe I kind of had fun doing this. I might do something like this again. I think it's fun to just paint on the walls
Yeah,
and just let it develop over a long period of time, right? Rather than rather than painting in a space with set dimensions, like a canvas, just being able to freely go onto a space with you know ceilings and walls and doors, and I let it go onto his furniture and lights and everything, because I don't think it really mattered. I don't think he really cared.
yeah,
A lot of the things were just kind of shabby.
sure,
So I don't know.
yeah,
His fan looks a lot cooler now. His dresser has sticky notes of where the underwear is and stuff, but it also has art on it now.
hell yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I also think there's something to say about like, I don't know, you spent your life painting walls outside with, kind of no boundaries. And this is kind of the antithesis of this, where you're in a very controlled home-like state or space, and you're doing the same thing, but it's more contained, and there's only so. Yeah, it's contained. There's like a limited amount of room, and you're like, all right, with a certain amount of time, what can I do space.
Yeah, I enjoy the opportunity. Speaking about art, I enjoy the opportunity with certain projects to feel like it's open-ended. And even when you call something done, it does not rule out the possibility of adding more. The largest painting where all this began, I finished it in 2023, but I started it in 2022. This painting I called done within 3 months of me starting it, because I was leaving town. But as I've returned a number of times on my travels around America, I've returned to his space and I'm hanging out and I have nothing to do. So I start painting, and I've ended up, even though this was finished in 2023, I've just been continuing to paint on top of it and add more. So then I have to sort of like sign it and say underneath 23, I also write 25. And I've done that to quite a few paintings. I like it. It's fun like that. The paintings in the hallway was started in 2022. And when they came back to me, I was sending them to a show, and I added more to them in 2023. And then I ended up with them again, and I've added more in 2025.
Sick.
And then these paintings were done with my father. I just gave him a big fat brush with black on it. And I told him to start painting, and he just started painting. And then whatever gestures he's done, I just added responses on top of it and turned them into resolved compositions with movement or feeling or messages. There's a lot of writing in this art, and it's stuff from, because it's all open-ended. A lot of this writing is just done kind of like in a version of a flow state. And some of the words or things, although in the moment I'm not really trying to construct anything, it all ends up saying something. It says within him, within you. And then over here, above you, it says immeasurable measures of mania. And mania goes around the television. See, this is there was an M here. A-N-I-A, mania.
Yeah.
Mania. And it's like around the television. It's like all this noise, Ozempic, and all these, because he watches cable TV with commercials. It's like noise, 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 and he's in hypnosis of that. So it's like, and a lot of that stuff is intrusive, and it comes out in the work, the way it's painted so aggressively. Like there's a lot of dominant male energy on this half of the room. And then here is an effort to give it a feminine energy. And then even to have these plants that I've had traveling with me, I brought them here and put them around it to try to balance this out. And then that's that kind of yin and yang, that male and female within us all, that's kind of play in harmony with ourselves. But there is no normal, and there is no perfect balance. It's just a game of experiencing the we're all on the journey to be normal, but we're also afraid of being normal. We're fearful of becoming it.
Sure.
Yeah.